Hi there, my name is Laura, and if you've been following me, I've done a series on my unicornuate uterus and miscarriage, ectopic, and my rainbow baby pregnancy. And this bit is now going to be following on to the labour part of it with a breech baby. So after what I thought was my waters breaking, I'd gone into the hospital to be assessed, and we'd been waiting there 5 hours before we'd been seen by a consultant. So they did a test on a special paper that tests the fluid that I thought might have been the waters, and it was negative. Turns out it had just been that I'd wet myself. Possibly that might have been a sign that baby was getting lower in the body and therefore putting pressure on my bladder. But we went then home at 5:30 in the morning and fell asleep instantaneously. 2 hours later, I needed to go to the toilet, and I sat there and I felt like something was putting pressure on me, and like I was bearing down, probably a little bit too much. As nothing was coming, I thought I'll go back to bed. And then 20-30 minutes later, I felt like this niggle, this tightening, that I then brushed off and went back over to sleep again. And then about 20-30 minutes later, another little niggle, but it turned back over. And so an hour after the initial one, it was a bit stronger, a bit like kind of, hey, take notice of this. And it dawned on me that actually that was the start of contractions. And then from there, that was when they started coming through more regularly. So I was using the app to keep track of my contractions, and they weren't coming the way that they tell you that they do. So instead of it being 3 contractions in 10 minutes, they were a little bit more irregular than that. So there were sometimes lasting less than a minute, like 30 seconds, and then I was waiting 7 minutes before the next one came. And sometimes they were lasting 3-4 minutes, and then there was only like a minute reprieve before another one was coming. So I rang the maternity hospital, and they said, with everything that's gone on, please come in as soon as you can. So I woke my husband up and he took me into the hospital. As we were driving there, which was only a 15-minute drive, the contractions became a bit more intense. So how I thought they were anything other than that, I don't know. So when I arrived at the hospital, I was bent double over. I think that's probably going through a contraction. And they'd taken me straight into an assessment bay. The midwife came in, and at this point they'd given me some gas and air, so I was feeling a bit more comfortable. And she says, do you mind if we do a quick examination? I says, yeah, crack on. That gas and air made me feel wonderful, and I just did not care, apart from waiting for my husband to find a parking space and come in as soon as he could. So she did the examination. She says, okay, Laura, I think you're about 9 centimetres dilated. Knowing that your baby is in breech, knowing that you've got unicornuate uterus, I'm going to go and get the consultant. So a few minutes later, husband walks in. A few minutes later after that, the consultant and a team walk in. So there was 2 support workers in the room, a midwife that had introduced herself, and now a consultant and a specialist reg. So the consultant had said, is it okay if I examine you? And I did not give a monkey's. Said, yeah, do what you've got to do. So she did the self-same thing as well. So she then says, I think you're closer to 8 centimetres, but you're fair enough along now that if you want to, we could try doing this as a vaginal delivery. I was so spaced out that I'd heard the word vaginal delivery, but there was not a lot of cognitive thought going on there. So I turned to my husband and I said to him, what do you think we should do? Now the colour drained out of his face at that question. He was now being asked to make a decision about his wife and unborn child. And I went, yeah? As if to say, well, I hope you're right, consultant, for making this decision. So I turned to them and went, yeah, all right then, let's give it a whirl. I said, right, we're going to move you into a labour room now. Says, yes, fine, as long as I can continue going with this gas and air, it's wonderful. So as I'm going down the corridor on the bed, I felt felt something warm and wet go. I think that was my waters going. And at the top of my lungs, I shouted back to my husband, I think my waters have just broke. And it was quite a lot of water, so not easily mistaken. So they got me into the room and they said, right, oh, we need you to go onto all fours. It's the best position to help a breech baby come out, because gravity helps you and everything's facing the right way. So I've got my arms up on the bed, which they've tilted up for me, and I can see a midwife with me and my husband to the side. I was going okay with the gas and air, and I could feel that he was coming out and then kind of going back in. And it seemed to go this way for a little while until the midwife said to me, Laura, we're going to have to take the gas and air away from you. You're not pushing effectively. And I went, oh, okay then. And this is when it went out of my system very quickly and I started to feel things very quickly. I could feel the pressure, could feel the sensations of it. And because everything had happened so quickly, because up until this point it just felt like a really strong period cramp, I'd not taken anything. I'm not taking paracetamol, not done anything to prepare myself for this. So the next bits were all done with no analgesia. So the team behind me kept on saying encouraging things like his feet are out, his knees, his bottom. But then it came to his hands and his arms, and this is where it started to burn. And I was frightened. I was frightened that if I pushed too hard that it might tear. And I remember turning to my husband and just going, please, I don't want to do this anymore. It was just that everything was aching, the position that I was in. I just wanted a reprieve. I said, please let me have the gas and air. So they allowed me to have it on the condition that I had 1 breath of gas and air to 3 contractions. So with that, his shoulders were born, and when his head was the last bit to be inside me still, they said, do you want a picture? I went, yes, absolutely. So my husband went round and he was just white from all of it. From my point of view, I only saw him and the midwife at my end, but for him, he saw the room and it was full of medical staff. So there was a support worker, a midwife, the midwife with me, there was a consultant, a specialist registrar, there was 2 neonate doctors, and he could see the worry on all of their faces. I couldn't, so I was none the wiser. So next thing was that his chin was born, then his mouth, his nose, his eyes, and all that remained was his forehead still to be born. And they kept on giving me these words of encouragement, and in that moment he took his first breath. He started to cry and I could hear him. It gave me a surge, it gave me a push to go on. But what was even more wonderful is that as he was crying, I could hear it and I could feel it through my body. I could feel the vibrations of his cry going up and through me. And I just said to myself, this is it, get him out. 3, 2, and he came. He was very quickly taken to the resuscitator. With him being a breech baby, it meant that his body temperature cooled while his body had been born but waiting for his head. He had purple feet because of how cold he was. When they got him to the resuscitator, they checked him over. They checked his oxygen levels, his heart rate, and his temperature. Everything by his temperature was fine. He'd done really well. His temperature was 34, which for a baby, their temperature needs to be 36.4 at least. So they had to warm him first before they gave him to me. And I think they spent about 5 minutes with him. And they just swaddled him in so many blankets. By the time that I'd got him, this 5 pound 3 ounce baby was wrapped up so tight. And I held on to him in just sort of this awe, this moment of, I've done it. My body's done it. There wasn't this rush of emotion that everybody says that you get, and I did feel a bit guilty about that. But there was also so much stuff still going on. The midwife then said that you still need to birth the placenta. Would you like an injection to help this along? And I said, as long as I've got the gas and air, I don't mind. And actually the placenta coming out didn't take long at all, and it was just like a warm sort of jelly-like substance coming out. And so once this had been done, they checked everything over. I was looking okay, my son was looking okay. They then said, would you like to try feeding him? And I took a step back. I was like, oh, this little human, this thing has come out of me, and now I'm going to feed it. Now, it didn't go so well for the first time. We tried 3 different positions. We tried the sort of cradle hold that you expect, a rugby ball, one where baby's head's here and then their body's round to the side. We tried the one where you side lie on a bed. Didn't work for either of us. Like, he wasn't getting it, and I didn't know what I was doing, even with the midwife's help. At the end of it all, when I was looking down at him, I just remember feeling relief and wow, just wow, awe that it had happened. Now, him being a breech baby, it could have gone so much worse, and in the back of my mind I knew that there was a chance we still might have needed to have gone to theatre, that it might have been an instrumental delivery, it might have even still resulted in a C-section at various different points. But I'm so glad that I did deliver. I've now got an amazing birth story to share with him, an amazing birth story to share with others. And if I could, I'd do it again. Now, for anybody else that might be pregnant and babies in breech, whether you've got unicornuate uterus or not, don't be frightened into doing a cesarean section. You don't have to. Now, if that is the way you feel safe, please do that. Don't ever put your own worries to the side for this. But if you're on the fence, give it a shot. If my half a uterus can manage, you can do it too. From the start of contractions at 8:30 that morning to him being put into my arms was 3.5 hours. I was just amazed. 4 hours ago, my body had been pregnant, my body was carrying him, and now he was in my arms. I hope this has helped to alleviate any worries that you might have about a breech baby being born vaginally. I hope this helps you to make a decision either way, whatever's right for you. There are Facebook groups called the Unicornuate Uterus, and I only found them recently, so I've not been a member for too long, but there are other ladies on there that have a unicornuate uterus and that are there to share advice and ask questions, so it might be helpful to you. In my next videos I'm going to touch on the miscarriages after my son was born. So if you want to follow them, you're more than welcome to join in, but otherwise just enjoy your day.